Wow. I've just watched that Darius Truxton is a Saint video about James Campbell, and it's some powerful stuff in there. It's actually blown my mind a little bit as to why people, what this voodoo thing is that Slothan talks about, or what other people have asked me about with what the draw is for Darius and how he manages to attract these people to worship him and things like that. And now it's just come to me what it is. It's so simple. It's just that he is a nutter magnet. He attracts a specific sort of nutter, which is like your evangelical religious nutter. I never realised it. I suppose in my head I was like, oh, there are a lot of religious people, like, you know, overtly religious people in Darius's chat. I'd not really thought about it, and he's not that particularly religious, but, or I don't know that, but whatever, but not overtly anyway. But he had a lot of them in his chat, but I was just like, whatever. And also I thought it kind of goes with the territory as well because of the sort of people, so it's kind of like that, but I had it upside down. It's because they are, it's not because they're dumb that they're religious, it's because they're religious and dumb that they only know how to follow, and they only know about hypocrisy, and they've accepted hypocrisy into their lives. I'm not having a go at anyone who's got religion or anyone whose beliefs and spirituality and things like that. I'm talking about people who follow a certain dogma, which in a lot of cases has a lot of hypocrisy embedded into it, whether it's the actual place and the people who are at the church. A lot of the time there's going to have hypocrites in there, and people trying to be leaders and things like that. And it's just a part of life if you are in that life, in my understanding. So it's just their brain, probably the way their brain is actually physically made up, is just predestined to interact in that way with someone. And then going back to the e-begging thing, now it's not necessarily, I'm not saying at all that Darius is one of those, but what I'm saying is that it's just that whole pedestal, having a person, it doesn't have to be anyone, having a pedestal with someone on it. And for people like these guys, not only are they already in the e-begging, anti-e-begging thing, so they're like already got a draw to that person, but also like it doesn't require anything else. It doesn't require any money or anything. It just literally requires that person to be there, to occasionally acknowledge them, and to accept their, if they want to go and spout off into the world about Jesus or something, that he'll just be like, oh yeah, all right. And I think it might have just been luck or something, but just a certain combination got together. Darius manages to keep them sweet somehow, like not intentionally, I don't think. I think it's just because he was just being nice, to be honest, on that score. I think he was just not being friendly and not accepting, which I think there was a part of that with him, but the hypocrisy and everything, and then his need. I'm not saying for a second that he's just this nice guy, because he also has this absolute need to be worshipped, or to have his very, very broken self-image and what's it called? His ego. What's that thing? Just self-conscious, like anxiety, all that stuff. He needs all that soothing. So he was getting it back from them. And I know I'm just like saying the obvious here, but it's just the order in which it's gone just makes me think that there's actually something that's how the chemistry works with that. And then over time, so you've got these guys, just these evangelical type people who just for some reason have collected around this guy. Then you've got repressed, weak people who might not be overtly religious or go to church every week or whatever, but they might just be so repressed in their lives that they are attracted to that dynamic and those people. And then you've got all the people who are watching this, of which I was one of them, and other people are. But this brings it into another thing, because you'd think then that there'd be like, and I think there was up to a point, there'd be people who were in it and then people who were out of it, which is what it was. But my own personal experience, I got semi-sucked into it, but not sucked into it. A lot like these guys, but I was just thinking about it and I was like, oh yeah, because I was defending Darius. I was saying to Blonde, like, why I thought he had this attraction, whatever it was, and I couldn't pin it down really or whatever, but I'm getting it now. But I am thinking about how my mind was working in that situation, and it's like, I remember the reason there was a concrete moment because I remember something happened. I can't remember what it was that happened, but I remember Evil saying to me, just get off the train, fuck him. And I was like, oh yeah, I can't believe I'm even on a train. So that was that. But it was like, I wasn't like on a train like they are, but I was kind of like, you kind of had a reason. It was like, you're either in it or you're out of it. So there was already that thing. So it already, even if you were just like watching it and you were kind of aware of it because you were like looking at these people and the interactions and everything, but then still enjoying some of the aspects of it and some of the people who were there, like genuinely enjoying their input and stuff. So I suppose that's part of it as well, that created such a varied mix of people, and it really was like, you know, unique in that sense. And then obviously you've got like the so-called snakes, anyone who disagreed or whatever, and people who were in the chat as well. So it did make extra variety until he just got so scared that he had to just push everyone else away. And then these evangelical people, obviously, the rest is history on that one. But like my thinking on this now is like, I'd like to find out what people think about what their experience and how their thinking was when they were in the Darius Truxton army. Like, honestly, not in the army, but you know what I mean, when they were specifically not against Darius, because it was like you were either supposedly in this army or you were against him. So you had to, just to be interacting with them and just to be like cordial, you had to kind of semi-sign up to something. Now I think that was Albert's doing, obviously, and that's like a completely different story, but it's just really interesting. And I'm going to think a bit more on that, but I'd like to ask people about that, if anyone's got their take on that, on what their experience was, and if it felt like that you had to sort of buy into anything at that point. Because I'm going to do some serious thinking about, well, not serious, but you know what I mean, I'm going to do some thinking about it, because it does tell you about how easily you can be sucked into things. I never bought into it, but I remember being like, because I was a lot more passive in those days and like not involved, not doing my own stuff or anything. So I was just like, well, I'll just hang around here for a bit, this is funny. So, but just by doing that, I then ended up defending Darius. So it's just interesting. And he was just like a major hypocrite, even though I knew he was like, it was Beavis and Butthead TV, but I was still defending him, probably because you had to buy into it, but also because he had this, then it's like this victim stuff and all the stories. And that's the other point, is like the stories that are woven, because in the comments of that Darius Truxton is a Saint video about James Campbell, there's some really interesting information that came from Alt Account Old. And that made me think about these stories that are weaved, and then you've got the cult stuff that's highlighted in that video, and how, you know, you're inside it, so you don't, even as like a passive person, you are kind of inside, because maybe in my case I wasn't really doing anything else, didn't have time for anything else, it was just a bit of fun every now and again, so that's just all you hear, and that in itself is so cultish. But yeah, that's just my thinking on it. And just for people who are still in there at the moment, I'd like to know what you think about it.
Did you ever know that your evil streams? You pissed off metal Jesus so well. You control all the worst YouTubers. And one day you're gonna go to hell. Did you ever know that you hate metal Jesus? You're everything that Jesus doesn't like. You can't even play heavy metal, 'cause you love Rata Blanca so much.